Have you ever been in a Bible study and felt like it could be, well, more? More than just a book club for Scripture. Today, we're going to dive into a really powerful way to turn that study into a deep spiritual journey, using wisdom from the Carmelite tradition.
So let's just start with a really honest question. Does your group ever feel like you're just downloading historical facts? Kind of like a lecture, instead of having a real, living conversation. If you're nodding your head right now, trust me, you are not alone, and there is a different way to do this.
The big shift is right here on the screen. It's all about moving from that first column over to the second. So you're changing the goal from simply gathering information to actually seeking a personal encounter. The Carmelites would say this is like a shared journey into the interior castle of your soul. And the Bible isn't the textbook, it's the map that guides you into a living relationship with God.
All right, so if we're on a journey, where are we actually going? What's the destination? A study like this is all about cultivating 3 key pillars of Carmelite spirituality. And these aren't just ideas, they're the real lived experience the group is working toward together.
First up is divine intimacy. The main goal here isn't just to analyze what Jesus said, but to build a real friendship with him. So instead of only asking what a passage means historically, you might actually be encouraged to imagine yourself right there in the scene, talking with Jesus. See how that changes things? It turns an ancient text into a living, breathing conversation.
Second, there's authentic friendship. And the Carmelite tradition is super clear on this. You are not meant to take this journey alone. The group becomes this amazing spiritual fellowship where people can actually be vulnerable, sharing their real struggles and their wins, knowing that they're on this sacred path together with people who have their back.
And wow, this quote from Saint Teresa of Avila just says it all, doesn't it? As a total master of this spiritual path, she knew that community is absolutely essential. It keeps us grounded, it keeps us encouraged. It's not just a social club, it's a spiritual lifeline.
And finally, we have contemplative action. This is so important. The point isn't just to feel warm and fuzzy during the meeting. The study is actually a training ground. It's equipping everyone to be sent back out into their daily lives to carry the love of Christ they just encountered out into the world.
Okay, so that's the destination. That's what we're aiming for. But how in the world do you guide people there? Well, the leader's role focuses on a 3-fold practice that really paves the way for the entire group.
A leader's job here really boils down to 3 key things: their own personal preparation, the actual skills they need to facilitate, and their personal investment in the people in their group. Now, I want you to notice where the preparation begins. It's not with making an agenda or researching a bunch of historical facts. It starts with the leader's own prayerful encounter with the Scripture, using a practice called Lectio Divina. The most authentic and powerful thing a leader can bring to the table is how that Scripture has personally moved their own heart.
And that change in preparation, it completely changes how you facilitate. The leader's role isn't to be a teacher who has all the right answers, but to be a guide. So the questions you ask are different. Instead of a purely intellectual question like, what does this mean? You ask a question that gets to the heart, something that invites real reflection and a personal encounter.
As a facilitator, you kind of wear a few different hats. You're the trail guide, right? Because you've already prayed with the passage. You can point out all the beautiful views. You're also the traffic cop, gently keeping the conversation on track when it starts to wander. And maybe most importantly, you're the cheerleader, celebrating people when they share something vulnerable, because that encourages everyone else to open up too.
The third practice is personal investment. A leader who gets this knows that the real work of friendship, it usually happens outside of that 1-hour meeting. It's grabbing coffee, it's making a quick phone call, it's praying for each other during the week. That's where that authentic community is really built.
This quote from Pope Paul VI just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly sums up the leader's role. It's way less about being a teacher with all the information and so much more about being a witness to a transformed life, a life that's full of joy and peace because it's rooted in prayer. That becomes the most compelling lesson you could ever give.
So all of this brings us to the ultimate purpose of this whole approach. I mean, what is all this work for? The prayer, the friendship, the vulnerability, what's the point? Well, it goes way beyond the meeting room.
I love this phrase from the source material. A Carmelite-style Bible study is not meant to be a jacuzzi for the soul, just a cozy place to relax. Nope, it's a training ground. The friendship and the encounter you have with God are the fuel for the real work, and that work happens out in the world.
And that mission is what you could call the little way of evangelization.
It basically says you don't need some grand, complicated plan. The most powerful way to share God's love is just by living a life that's been transformed by prayer and real friendship with Him. That life, in and of itself, is the witness.
So let's end on this one final thought. In this way of thinking, the end of the meeting is never actually the end. It's the beginning of the real work. So the question to leave with is this. Now that your study is over, what work is just beginning? How will the encounter you had in that room change how you live and love and serve when you walk out the door?